Sports presents Benning Bites with Damon Benning. Benning Bites with Damon Benning.
Another episode of Benning Bites. It's pretty good, right? Like, I enjoy talking to you fine folks. I get a little squirmy, but I'm not always comfortable just talking to myself one on none. So you just got to bear with my weird mannerisms. But anyway, however you get us, Google, Apple, Spotify. I almost said Playfly. And I was like, wait a minute, that's the wrong media company. That would be the Husker Radio Network. But all the flies, the eyes, the whatever. Man, just be a part of what we're doing. We enjoy you fine folks. Give my partner Andrew Rogers a follow at Andrew Rogers TV. Coffee and cream coming up in just a few minutes. And I always say, you know, with Benning Bites, say, what would you ask me if you just had, 4 or 5 minutes to shoot the breeze and ask me some questions about what's on my brain? And I got a question from Jay, and it's a good one, and he's really smart. He's had some legendary calls. Good fan, loves Nebraska. Saw him with his son leaving the stadium after one of my broadcasts last year, so I know he's all in. And he said, what advice would you give to a fan on how we intake what we hear from media regarding coach and player info? He said the framework for the question was, nobody told the fan that the program was in the shape it was under Frost. It seemed for the first time I can remember our expectations were miles from reality. And I'd say that yes and no. I think the thing with Coach Frost, especially with people that were kind of close to the program, and you can even use me as an example, I think at the end of the day you always hoped and held out hope that he would surround himself with enough people to accentuate his strengths and play off of his weaknesses. What happened was that didn't happen because the culture wasn't strong enough to survive the autonomy of, like, the players policing themselves. See, the caveat to having strong cultures and wanting your cultures to reflect your coaches is the culture has to be set in such a way where there's built-in accountability, where if I'm doing something and it's out of ordinary and it's detrimental to what it is that we want to accomplish, somebody else is going to call me on that, or it's not going to feel right to me because I don't have enough people on the same page as me, right? That wasn't the case a year ago. So even though I felt like the staff had some foibles and some things that were ultimately not going to be productive for their well-being, you hope that there were enough other things to offset that. It didn't happen, and it continued to manifest itself. And I also think you had a couple of guys on that staff that kind of doubled down on forcing people's hands. So I fast forward to this year and with this staff, and listen, I'm with you, Jay. And I've said this a lot of times, I have to check myself. I have to make sure that I'm not just consuming it because it's different from something that I've always wanted to hear. I trust me, and I'm secure in me that I'm pitting against what I've always wanted. And I want clarity of message. I want a vision. I want a plan. Even if I don't agree with it, Jay, I want somebody to speak it and say it out loud. This is who we are. This is how we do things. This is how we believe it. Even whether I like it or not, it's not about me, right? I just know because I've seen it work across the board. Hitler was an evil, evil man with no good intentions. But he got people to believe his message. So I know even trash can be believed if you have conviction in it. And while that's probably not the greatest analogy of good and evil, my point is, if I believe in something enough and I say it enough times, the scary thing is you can make it come to fruition. But it doesn't have to be a negative. It can be a positive. And so for Coach Rhule to say, hey, you know what? We want to be disciplined. We want to pay attention to detail. We want to care about one another. We want the results to matter. If I say it enough and I speak it enough and I model the behavior that I want, which is exactly what he's doing with his staff, I don't have any problems with you consuming the information. But the one caveat is, what do I always say? I do this job because not only can I learn from you, the consumers of the information that Andrew and I talk about, is I want to empower you to be individual free thinkers. We want to handicap you with the facts. We want to equip you with the things that we think. If it's an opinion, we'll say it's our opinion. If it's things that I believe to be true, I'm going to tell you that it's things that I believe to be true in terms of facts. And then you can do with that information what you will. I don't want to force you to think a certain way because, to be honest, I don't want to be responsible for that. It's not my burden to bear. It's just not. So I feel like it's freeing and we're doing our job at a high level if I'm telling you the things that I believe to be true, and when I don't know them as fact, I say it's my opinion, and then you can do with the information what you will. And I think you'll feel better about that. There won't be the onus and the pressure, well, they told me and they said, and that's the only place that I could get, so I arrived at. See, I don't want to be in that business. And maybe that's why I've never fully fit into the quote-unquote media world. First of all, I can't write, so you know I can't do print. And I didn't grow up in media, so it's not always what I wanted to do, so I'm a little unorthodox. But one thing I will do that I am consistent about is I want to empower you, the listener, the consumer of the information, to spark individual thoughts so you can own it. It's up to you. Don't give anybody else the power to affect the way that to dictate your behavior. Don't do it. But if you do, I want to be the guy, and Andrew wants to be the guy that's giving you a safe baseline to guide your judgment. That's it. No more, no less. I hope that makes a ton of sense because it's really what I believe, and it's ultimately why I do the job that I do. I think it's why, as a partnership, Andrew and I get along the way that we do because we believe in the same thing. And it's all about empowering you to be free, independent thinkers and kind of give you the knowledge that you need to make good, sound decisions on what you believe in. And we don't have to be your moral compass, not asking for that. But I think we do try to give you the pulse of what's going on to the best of our ability. And you can do with the information what you will. And that's really what we're about. And hopefully that makes us unique. And hopefully that's why you're a part of what we do and why we love being with you. So again, however you get us, YouTube TV, we hope so you can avoid those hard outs. ESPN 590, we're take advantage of that big blowtorch that they give us. Google, Apple, Spotify. Just make sure that you know that we appreciate what you're doing, and thanks for being a part of our day. It's another episode of Benning Bites.